Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargeant. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Kris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white-knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude. Honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Spark Faith Show. I am Dr. Kris Sargeant, and we have a guest today, and I'm super excited. Of course, as always, I'm excited because that's the way I live my life. But Jo Hosein has graciously taken a little bit of time out of her completely busy schedule. She works for a company that I have worked with for over 30 years, which is Ortho Molecular Products. They are a professional brand, and we'll talk like a half a second about why we do professional brands instead of over the counter. But Jo fell in love with holistic health. She had an exposure to mold poisoning, which is really, really difficult. And she really had to make some radical changes in her life. And so functional and whole body wellness is her passion now. And because it really transformed her life and brought back the quality of life. She's super young, y'all. She doesn't need to be having problems. Welcome to the show, Jo. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Dr. Sargent, thank you so much for having me. I feel really honored. And yeah, I did have some mold poisoning. It completely reshaped my life. And so now I'm able to work in an industry that I personally was transformed by, that really changed my life, gave me my quality of life back. And now I'm honored to be able to hear and share some of my insights.
I love that so much. We'll have to have you back on and we'll have a whole show on mold.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me all the things that happen because I have a few clients right now that are going through that. So that is something that we address a lot. But today, I may be a little bit late to this whole GLP-1 party. However, I really think it's vital as some longer term research is showing some really surprising and actually potentially negative outcomes, particularly for the peri and postmenopausal women, that really could have some lifetime implications, right? And as you all know, I'm not really against meds, but if there is a safer way to steward our body, like most things in life, they're not always the easy way. However, I have battled my weight for a lot of my life, and it has remained stable for 15 years. And I went through menopause 7 years ago. So I know that it's possible, and it has not been easy. However, today I really just want to focus in on the GLP-1s and some of the negative stuff that can be happening, and particularly for women over 40, these things work, right, Jo? They work, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what are some of the things that they come with?
Yeah, so GLP-1s have blown up. They've gone viral. You see them, in person, but you can even find them online nowadays,
I
which
know.
is very interesting. And the reason they've blown up is because you're right, they work. And so when we think about weight loss, and getting fast results, in the past, it used to be surgery, bariatric surgery. This is the first medication that's able to get you the same results. You're able to lose 10 to 20% body fat or weight loss. And, but the truth is it really body fat you're losing? And especially with your perimenopausal and your menopausal women, a lot of the times as you are losing weight so rapidly, it comes from your muscle. You're not losing body fat, you're losing muscle, which is then going to affect overall longevity, muscle health, even hormones.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the side effects that can come with your GLP-1s, but you're right, they do work, and help you to get to your goal, but is it getting you to your goal the safest way possible?
I could not agree more. And so today I really want to stress that this isn't about fear. This is about an informed decision, right?
Absolutely.
I don't lead with fear. Everybody who's listened to me even once knows that I lead with grace and love and gratitude. However, I think it's really understanding the difference between forcing the body into submission and
Yeah.
supporting the body back into balance with more normal weight. And again, this conversation is really, this is not medical advice. So I want to make sure that people are aware of that, particularly since we're going to be talking about some supplements today and some medications. This is really just a conversation for education. And it's really important that you talk to your functional medicine provider, your healthcare provider about what's really right for you. So let's talk a minute about why this whole GLP-1 thing took off. I mean, I heard you say stuff about bariatric surgery, but even in the bariatric space, isn't muscle loss part of the problem with the bariatric surgery as
So in
well?
general, with weight loss, the best approach we should always take is lifestyle and diet.
Hmm.
And what happens when, whether it's bariatric surgery, rapid weight loss through even supplementation or through GLP-1s, is that weight rebound can be so common, and that's a lot of the time, that fear that we're talking about, or you mentioned, can happen because when you're not taking the steps to correct the way you live your daily life, then a lot of these magic surgeries or magic injections can only help you for a short period of time. It's not helping to address your overall health.
Right. I think that's so important. And I'm a big proponent of mental health also alongside what I do, because I think
Mhm.
it's important to really get to the
Absolutely.
root of the issues of how you ended up or how someone might end up heavier than they want to be
Mhm.
over time, right? There's some things that go along with that, but the shift toward obesity as a chronic disease, and then it also is a complication of a whole bunch of other diseases, right?
Yeah, I mean, 40% of Americans are now overweight or obese, which is a very large number. That's
Hmm.
almost 1 in 2 people. And so just addressing, that obesity is a indicator and is going to drive you to chronic illnesses, that are preventable otherwise if you were able to live that healthy lifestyle. And you're right, sometimes, our weight, there's a lot more to weight than, and especially talking about perimenopausal and menopausal women, there's a lot more that we can talk about with that, but helping to understand that, in that mental shift, that we don't need to always jump to the fastest solution, or get fear mongered into, you know doing whatever the current viral trend is.
I could not agree more. And, I think, like I said, I want to stay pretty neutral on this, but I do think it's important to just talk about the cultural pressure, y'all, social media, the access to telehealth, like you said, like you can just go online and get a telehealth visit, and you may or may not even have the right or be the right person to take a GLP-1. And, from a physician's perspective, I think it's important that we really look at your whole health history and what else have you done and what else can we work through in order to do that. But I think that the core thing that I want to get across today, and last week I talked about calories and how calories are not all the same and how calorie deficit changes in perimenopause and menopause,
Mhm.
and how that doesn't always work anymore because we've lived this whole life of stress and our hormones are playing in the background. And I've talked a lot about hormones and I've talked a lot about adrenals. And so I don't want to go down that road, but this whole muscle loss problem, this is a big deal. And I always say that our muscle is our metabolism. So why would we
Absolutely.
ever want to do anything to disrupt muscle metabolism, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right, and I want to clarify too. I think that there are some great benefits that come with the semaglutides. Microdosing is one of them. It helps you to
Hmm.
reframe and rethink about food noise has helped to be reduced, helping to have more precise care. And so finding the right practitioner, working with the right practitioner to, therefore not lose muscle mass, especially dependent on, your age and how you're living your lifestyle is so important.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, just keep bringing that home. But the microdosing and the drug in and of itself has to be personalized, right? This is not
Mhm.
something I do in my practice, but I know that there are plenty of functional medicine doctors out there that will do a microdose and add in like what are we eating? How are you working out? Are you doing strength training?
Mhm.
How are you maintaining your muscle mass? And we are definitely going to talk a lot about that a little bit later in the show. But, up 20 to 40% of the weight loss may be lean mass. And that without protein and without resistance training, you're going to continue to lose that lean mass that really becomes your metabolism. And so when you come off of a medication, even if you've shifted your lifestyle, if you don't have that lean mass, then you're going to just end up skinny fat or fat skinny,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
And oh, go
go ahead.
ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, with perimenopausal women and hormones and weight loss, it is very important just due to the fact that estrogen directly, protects your muscle and same with vice versa. So,
Hmm.
when you're touching one bucket, you're going to touch the other bucket. And so it's just really important to be able to protect both sides. And we are able to do that through a lot of different ways, which is exciting.
Yeah, I also think another point is that muscle is really hard. It's so much harder to gain and regain
Mhm.
postmenopausally. And it is some of that estrogen decline that when we don't have as much estrogen, we're going to have some impaired muscle protein synthesis. So that just means that you're not going to be able to make those muscles the way that you used to make them. It's going to
Right.
take a little bit more work.
Oh yeah, and statistics show that during perimenopause, you're losing muscle at roughly a rate of 1 to 2% a year.
Whew.
And without, intentional protection, that number can even increase. So strength training and just helping, whether that is through supporting your estrogen, etc.
Yeah, I think that's important. So when we lose muscle mass, we really impact our resting metabolic rate, right? And none of us, I don't care how old you are, if you are young like Joe, none of us want to have a lower metabolic rate.
Right. Right.
Not not one of us. We already struggle. So as women without as much testosterone as men, that is
Mhm.
already a challenge. And also let's talk about like glucose and insulin sensitivity in muscle, right? Because,
Yeah.
and I've talked a little bit about this before about around the hormones and decreasing estrogen, causing a lot more insulin resistance. So talk about muscle mass and insulin sensitivity or
Yeah,
resistance.
so muscle is your body's primary place to put glucose. And so when your muscle is lost, then where's your glucose going, right? And so
Right.
there's where that metabolic problem therefore follows. So your muscle helps to control your glucose, and then glucose control helps to protect your muscle.
So could we be creating more diabetes?
Yeah, so that insulin sensitivity with muscle mass is, I would say it's an indicator and it a direct link. When you're losing your muscle mass, you're going to drive up insulin sensitivity problems, and so potentially, yeah,
Yeah, I think so too. That was one of the first thoughts when the GLP-1s kind of came on the market. I'm like, how is this not going to end up creating more diabetes instead of fixing it? And not that
yeah,
it's
and
not necessary for some people, because I know it's used for
oh
type
yeah,
2, and I'm not here to say anything about that. It's the indiscretionate use of it that seems to be the biggest challenge here. And yes, the fear around weight gain is real, particularly if you've lost muscle mass.
right, and so and on top of that, because muscle helps to store your glucose, this allows there to be less stress on your pancreas. And so when you're losing muscle, you have reduced glucose uptake, as well as, higher post-meal blood sugar, higher insulin levels overall, and just increasing your glucose intolerance in general.
Right. And that just leads to more chronic disease. And
Correct.
I've talked a lot about
Hmm.
that on some of my
Yeah.
other shows, right? But let's touch on longevity, and then let's talk a tiny bit about what we still don't know really long-term use. But let's talk about longevity and muscle mass, because one of the key indicators in longevity is maintained muscle mass, right? Sarcopenia, which is the loss of
Hmm.
muscle mass, is what we're fighting against that already.
Right, right. Correct. Muscle is one of the strongest predictors of longevity. And so our muscle helps to protect our metabolic health as we age. So, and we talked about the glucose. So it's the largest site of your glucose disposal. On top of that, um, when you're lacking muscle, inflammation can rise. And so I
Mm,
like to call muscle our metabolic armor. And so when you're losing that armor, you're, causing more, you're not going to be as impenetrable to some of this chronic disease that's going to occur. On top of this, you have mobility, you can have increased fall risk. These are all things that we think of, as we age and get older, but it really just in general covers our metabolic health.
right. I love that. So, for all of my peri and postmenopausal women out there, weight loss that costs muscle mass may not be a win, right? It's really just a delayed metabolic liability. And so we really want to start protecting that. So what don't we know about long-term GLP-1 use, right? Like most of the trials are 1 to 2 years. Long-term maintenance often requires like this continued use, and the whole regain thing, which we've talked about enough. What we may not know is what happens to the body when we start and stop and start and stop and start
Mhm.
and stop. And long-term body composition is exactly what we've talked about this whole thing earlier. And then there's some little indicators coming in, and I'm not going to talk a lot
Mhm.
about it. We're not going to talk a lot about it. But some mood and some quality of life effects that are just starting to trickle in right now. The research is kind of both
Mhm.
and because some people it can help, and there's some neuroprotective things that may be
Mhm.
happening also, but there's also some emotional flatness, there's some increased anxiety, maybe some increased depression. So again, the research isn't clear, and we just don't know some of those things.
Right. Right now, your major trials on any of your semaglutides really are 1 to 2 years long. We don't have those 10, 20-year trials that are able to give us longer insights.
Right.
And so some of like the unknowns that you're talking about can even include overall micronutrient intake, how that's affecting our bone health,
Mhm.
our immune resilience, overall energy availability, but even, long term, what happens to our hunger hormones? What happens with our metabolic rate as we start, stop, start, stop. And so there is a lot we don't know.
Yeah, that I'm going to leave it kind of right there. So, if appetite suppression alone doesn't solve the problem, how are we going to solve this weight loss problem, right? Part of this is muscle first weight loss. And I've talked about protein sparing fasting. I've talked a lot about protein on the show. So, the goal here isn't necessarily maximum appetite suppression. The goal is you being satisfied or satiated, that still allows appropriate nourishment and muscle maintenance, right? So, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of different products from Ortho Molecular. I am not here to sell any products. I
Absolutely.
simply want to roll out a little bit of research, not done by Ortho Molecular, done by
Correct.
done by the research people, and this is probably a great place to throw that in about
Mhm.
professional supplements, right? They're not doing their own research.
Yeah, so A little bit about Ortho is we are a professional supplement group, medical grade for the past 36 years. And why does professional supplements matter? Well, the FDA in the United States doesn't have a ton of laws or regulations regarding supplements. And so a lot of the things you find over the counter are really poor in um, bioavailability, and it's not regulated like food is and to the standards of food. So when you see over the counter supplements, a lot of them have, too small of doses, or if the dose is high enough, it's made synthetically or non-absorbable for your body. And so
Hmm.
with professional use supplements, we are using therapeutic and clinically relevant doses based off of studies done, as well as that are designed to, cross our biological thresholds versus, just taking a capsule, having some GI distress, and then not absorbing anything.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and so
I
form and delivery is, so important for supplementation. You can take, however many supplements you want, but if you're not absorbing anything,
right.
it's not gonna help you out.
Right. So actually, it goes back to the old thing that we talk about in functional medicine. You aren't what you eat, you are what you absorb.
Right, right.
Right? So
Yeah,
you can be eating all the right stuff, but if you're not absorbing it, gut issues, blah, blah, blah. And we're not going down that today,
right.
but and the same thing with supplements though, if they're not in the right form and you're not able to absorb them, then it's kind of wasted money. And so this is why I've used professional supplements in the 33 going on 34 years that I've been in practice. And Ortho Molecular has been there for most of that time. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm solid. I know what it's going to
Mhm.
do. And if it doesn't, it's because it's not the right supplement for the person, not because of the supplement.
Yes.
So,
Well, I'm
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just say, we are, very proud of our supplements and, the quality we do. We have a 6,000 square foot lab that we do in-house testing. We also, do third-party testing. So quality is important, and I appreciate you saying that.
So we're going to talk about something called CaloCurb.
Yes.
It is appetite support without starvation. That has some pretty unique ingredients that have been tested and tested for how long in New Zealand?
Yeah, so
Let's
this is a
talk about
product.
this.
Yeah, I'm very pumped because this is the first time Ortho Molecular has ever partnered with another company. And so, that's where you're hinting at. This is not our professional, you know, uh, clinical trials. So in 2010, New Zealand, the government itself funded a $20 million grant to, their version of the FDA, or the Plant and Food Research. So this is a government-owned research institute, and with this $20 million, they were able to test out different ingredients, over 1,000 ingredients actually, to see what stimulates, these GLP-1 bitter taste receptors in our GI tract. And so what they found was a ingredient called amersate, which is a potent bitter hops, and that it can stimulate those bitter taste receptors, which are called TAS2R, by 600%, which is
That's
insane.
amazing. Yeah, that is so y'all cannot drink beer and get this thing just because she said something about hops. Um,
Yes.
and you're all
Well,
thinking, wait a minute, there's bitter taste receptors on my tongue, but they're in my gut too. What?
yeah, so your gut can taste too, which is crazy. And the way this kind of works is, imagine, as humans or animals, we eat fruits, and we'll eat like the strawberry, but not the strawberry leaf because it's bitter. And a lot of bitters are historically can be toxic. And so the way our bodies kind of work is when our GI tract tastes this bitter, herb, it's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna stop eating this in case it's poisonous, and we're going to excrete it. So this product, you're not absorbing anything. It's all about hitting these taste receptors. You're excreting the product, but in the meantime, you're helping to hit those appetite suppressing hormones like GLP-1s, CCK, PYY, that are helping you to feel full and for your fullness to last longer.
So I just heard moderate appetite suppression and appetite
Yes.
modulation, not appetite shut down, right? So that's going to allow for adequate protein intake and muscle protein synthesis and really avoiding chronic undereating that can happen with some of the medications.
Right. And I think one of the important things too is I mentioned a couple other hunger hormones. So CCK, PYY, and GLP-1, they kind of work as an orchestra. With weight loss, it's not a single instrument. You kind of need this whole orchestra playing to help you to be able to lose weight, in the most appropriate way. And so these work together to help you do so.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know that we could probably do an entire show
Yeah.
on talking about this, but
Yes.
we want to move into our muscle maintenance strategy. And I've come up with three things that we can do, including another particular brand new product from Ortho, which I'm really excited about for myself. And I'm thinking even athletes could use this for maintaining muscle mass.
Yes.
Um, I think it's really exciting, and you can use this product along with a healthy diet, muscle sparing protein amounts in your diet, 60 to 80 grams of protein every day. And let's talk about the new product. Do you
Yes.
want to do
So
the introduction?
I would love to. So this product came out less than a month ago. It's called Reducor. And this product is more than just helping with muscle. So, but I'll hone in on the muscle for a second here. But amino acids are also blowing up on the internet because of their the help they provide to with muscle synthesis. And
Mhm.
so what we have in this product is it's called amino L40. So this is an amino acid that's 40% leucine. And so what Reducor, this product does, and what this ingredient does, is it helps to preserve your muscle while you're losing weight. And studies show that actually 1.5 grams of this is able to is equivalent to 40 grams of whey protein in terms of synthesis. So this is
That's
not you
amazing.
supplementing, right? It's not you supplementing 40 grams of protein. You still need your protein, but helping to preserve. And so this product has 1 gram, which is equivalent to about 30 grams of whey protein and amino acids.
Y'all, do you understand what you're getting here? Like you're getting all this whey protein, but it's not whey, so all my dairy sensitive people don't have to worry about it. And
Yes.
you're getting a ton of basically protein for, I believe it said 20 calories. And this is going to help you maintain your muscle mass and stimulate some of those GLP-1 receptors,
Yes.
which is what we're looking for. So you're going to reduce your appetite with this a little bit. You're going to maintain your glucose afterwards because it's got some glucose stabilizing things in it,
Mhm.
and which will help you not spike. And we have talked, I know we've talked a ton on my show about glucose spikes, and we don't want that. We don't want insulin spikes because that just creates a whole other set of problems. So basically, here's the three things you're going to get from Reducor. You're going to get to support your satiety, right? You're going to feel full without starving. You're going to
Mhm.
stimulate muscle protein synthesis, right? So we can maintain the muscle mass that we want to maintain, right? And especially when your appetite is low, you don't always want like a giant steak. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
And then we're also going to maintain our glucose.
Yeah. So it's a 40% reduction in your post-meal glucose spikes. We talked about muscle and, glucose. So when you're losing muscle, this is helping, once again, one bucket affects the other. And
Everything
then,
affects everything.
yeah, so super neat product when, like you said, three big pillars that it's helping to touch.
I've already got it on my cart. I'm getting started not too long because I try everything, y'all. I try almost everything before I give it to you. So, um, Joe, I just want to thank you so, so much for being on today. We could talk, I can already tell that we can talk a lot and
Yeah.
we could keep going on every single thing. So this is really exciting, to have you here, and we'll definitely do this again.
Yeah,
Um,
thank
so,
you.
oh, you're so welcome. Oh my gosh. In midlife women, y'all, this is not just about how do I lose weight. This is how do I lose weight and maintain the muscle mass that I need so that I can be healthy in the next 20 years and 30 years down the road, right? So thank you for listening to my show today. I really appreciate it. But any strategy that ignores muscle is going to be an incomplete strategy. And we are all about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Thank you so much for being here today, Jo, and love you guys for listening today. Thank you. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargeant. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drkrissargeant.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Kris Sargeant. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.